Ikrama says, actually he has the only unique opinion about this ayah. He says, the literal meaning, by the way, is rescuing someone from slavery. Rescuing someone from slavery. That's fakku raqaba. That's what the meaning of the expression is. Ikrama says it is to free yourself from the slavery of sins by making tawbah. That's what his opinion is on this ayah. That actually the first thing to climb is your own nafs, and to conquer yourself by means of tawbah. But let's look at the majority tafsir of the ayah, inshallah ta'ala. In Arabic there are two words for rescuing. There's anqadha with a dal at the end, right? For example, أَفَتُنْقِذُ مَنْ فِي النَّارِ in the Quran. And then there is fakka, this word that we find in this ayah. This word is used when you're trying to rescue a slave or somebody out of prison. But anqadha is used when you're trying to rescue someone from a fire or from some kind of danger. You pull them out of the way. So rescuing from bondage or slavery or prison, and then rescuing from danger. Two different kinds of words are used in the Quran. Here of course we find the word for slavery. So the first act is freeing the slave. Now the word for slavery is raqaba, which literally means the back of the neck. The back of the neck. Now, unuq is the neck. And there are other words to illustrate the neck also in the Quran. But specifically raqaba is used for the back of the neck, illustrating that there's a chain around the neck of the person. And the link to it is where? In the back. And now, if the link was in the front, the master pulls it and you pull forward. But if the link is in the back and the master pulls it, what happens? You get choked. You get choked. You don't get choked when you get pulled forward, but you get choked when you get pulled back. So it's actually illustrating the pain of being a slave. The pain, and the slavery is mentioned in two ways in Islamic literature. One is literal slavery, the other is the slavery of a debt. That your necks are tied in debt. That's also a chokehold on you, right? So fakku raqabatin, subhanallah. This word actually being used in the nominal masdar form implies you are committed to it. Meaning the first mount to climb was not one time you freed a slave, one time you did this good thing. You're committed to that as a cause. So even in Meccan Quran we find the cause of freeing slaves. You know how people talk about why does Islam endorse slavery? Right? And how that discussion is taken in every direction. The Meccan Quran from the very beginning is saying you want to climb that right path. What's the first act? Become committed to freeing the slave. Become committed to it. Right? And what's the first act of climbing the mount? You have to become what? Selfless. So the previous surah illustrated why isn't it that you'd climbed up? Didn't you already do? And iqtahama, past tense, you haven't done so. What's the proof that you haven't done so? Has the proof already been given? It's given in the previous surah. And now you're being told the exact opposite. Freeing the slave, and أَوْ إِطْعَامٌ فِي, not just it'am, not just giving. And by the way, they don't even give. They eat themselves. وَتَأْكُلُونَ التُّرَاثَ أَكْلًا لَمَّا. You eat the wealth that comes to you from the inherited, from monies you didn't earn. You love to eat it. But if you love to eat it, you should have more of a love of giving others to eat. أو إطعام, giving to eat. But then giving to eat when? Not just giving to eat. That's not enough. فِي يَوْمٍ ذِي مَسْغَبَةٍ. In a day that is quantified or identified with this term masghaba. In Arabic, in the Quran specifically, for hunger, there are four terms that are used. Masghaba, ju', makhmasa, and khasasa. These are four words that are used in the Quran for hunger. Specifically, the one that is used here is masghaba. Asghaba al-qawmu, in Arabic expression, which comes from this word, means when a nation is hungry because of famine. So masghaba means widespread hunger. Hunger that isn't just limited to the one you're trying to feed, but everyone is going hungry. Everyone is going hungry. Meaning, in our expression we would say, bad economic times. So Allah says, this mountain to climb, why is it so tough in the beginning? You have to feed and be committed to feeding, because again, there's not a verbal form. أَوْ يُطْعِمُونَ فِي يَوْمٍ. No. أَوْ أَطْعَمُوا فِي يَوْمٍ. No. أَوْ إِطْعَامٌ فِي يَوْمٍ. It'am is the masdar. The infinitive form implies it's a timeless commitment. You're committed to the act of feeding, especially in bad economic times. فِي يَوْمٍ ذِي مَسْغَبَةٍ. In a day that is possessed by this overwhelming hunger that's coming to everybody. Meaning when you're reluctant to give, it's because you yourself are hungry. But Allah is saying, if you want to climb this mount, you have to become a true humanitarian. In the sense that you're even giving preference over yourself in giving to the other. So يَتِيمًا ذَا مَقْرَبَةٍ. Previous surah said, كَلَّا بَلْ لَا تُكْرِمُونَ الْيَتِيمِ. Yatim came up again. It's like a review of the previous lesson. So he says, يَتِيمًا ذَا مَقْرَبَ, feeding the orphan, the feeding of an orphan that possesses closeness. And the word maqraba is interesting because it's from ظرف makan. Now, ذَا الْقُرْبَ, or ذَا الْقُرْب even, of closeness, meaning the orphan that is close relative to you. But the maqraba doesn't just mean the close relative to you, means the one who is in close proximity to you. There are orphans all around your neighborhood. What about them too? So it captures two things: the orphan in your family that's needy, and the orphan that's in your community. أو مسكينا ذا متربة. Or the word miskeen comes from maskana. It's used in many places in the Quran. It's been defined in a couple of different ways. For example, Imam Raghib al-Isfahani says, someone who barely has life essentials to survive. Meaning they have no assets, they have no savings, perhaps they don't even have a home, some linguists argue, but they're somehow surviving anyway. Like if you saw them, you would say, how are you surviving? That's a miskeen. Okay? So Allah says miskeenan, but then He adds dha matraba. This needy person, this barely surviving person, that is associated, possessing dust. And matraba, mim masdari, turab, not even dha turab, dha matraba. The mim here is called mim masdariya. What it does is, it's completely covered in dust. And it captures a few things for us. Number one, he's homeless. Because if he was at home, he wouldn't be overwhelmed with dust. Number two, he's going around in search of food. So when you go around, what happens to you? You get covered in dust. Number three, his bed is dust. Because when your bed is dust, when you sleep on dust, you are now, when you get up, you're covered in dust. Right? So, and he's dirty and he's bankrupt. All of these implications are captured when we see أَوْ مِسْكِينًا ذَا مَتْرَبَةٍ. The previous surah told us how bad these people are. They don't climb that mount. And how did He say it? وَلَا تَحَاضُّونَ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. Forget feeding him. You don't even encourage anybody else to feed him. You don't even do that. So that was actually illustrated in the previous surah, and it's being responded to again here. Then Allah says, ثُمَّ كَانَ مِنَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. Thereafter, he became from those who had believed. Iman is mentioned all the way at the end here. What was mentioned before? The freeing of a slave, right? فَكُّ رَقَبَةٍ. Giving, when a day that's difficult, giving to who? The orphan and the needy that's covered in dust. Humanitarian causes. So Allah is saying, those of you that see something wrong in society, this is a very profound lesson of the, I don't want to say philosophy, but the wisdom of the Quran. Profound lesson. Those that saw problems in society before them, and they could relate to these problems, and were looking for a solution to these problems, there's only one real solution. Everything else is patchwork. But then, these are the problems of humanity. This is fasad, basically, in humanity that's always been there. The previous surah told us what was the root of that fasad. It was الَّذِينَ طَغَوْا فِي الْبِلَادِ. They rebelled against who? Against Allah, and thereby caused corruption. So how do you get rid of the corruption? You can try to help the corruption. What's the root that will get rid of the corruption altogether? That is returning back to Iman in Allah.